More than 42,000 refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh, a third of the enclave's ethnic Armenian population, have already arrived in Armenia.
More than 100 people have died and dozens others have been injured after a fire broke out at a wedding in northern Iraq.
The Nagorno-Karabakh refugee crisis keeps worsening. Local authorities say a third of the enclave's population, more than 42,000 people, are already in Armenia. The Armenian evacuation of Nagorno-Karabakh continues 4 days after Azerbaijani military forces claimed control of the region. Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has called on Azerbaijan to authorize international observers to enter Nagorno-Karabakh, and the United States says Azerbaijan's president is receptive.
President Aliyev has said there will be no further military action, and we expect him to abide by that. He has also said that he would accept an observer mission, and we would expect him to abide by that.
The Russian Ministry of Defense, which maintains a peacekeeping mission in Azerbaijan, released images of the rescue of the victims of Tuesday's explosion at a petrol station in Nagorno-Karabakh. The latest figures put the death toll at least 68, but more than 100 people are still unaccounted for following the incident. On the Azerbaijani side, it was announced that at least 192 of its soldiers and one civilian died during the operation in Nagorno-Karabakh.
A fire at a wedding in northern Iraq has killed at least 100 people and injured 150 more. The blaze happened in Nineveh province, which is a predominantly Christian area just outside the city of Mosul. The bride and groom are reported to be among the victims. It's not yet clear what caused the blaze, but early reports say it broke out after fireworks were lit. Flammable construction materials may have contributed to the hall's rapid collapse.
Metre by metre, these Ukrainian troops are holding the line near Bakhmut. Their MODs released images showing that despite criticism that the counter-offensive is too slow, these troops are making progress. They say they're proud to be part of the state border guard service, specially set up last February to assist in the liberation of territories occupied by Russian troops in the initial months of the 2022 Russian invasion. They get around via a series of tunnels and are slowly gaining ground. But they need support, and they're getting it from one of Ukraine's separate air assault brigades who back up those on the front line with their reactive artillery units. It's essential teamwork.
Це дуже приємно чути це. Дуже приємно чути, звісно, всі задоволені. Тобто є настрій, є мотивація, хочеться ще відпрацювати, аби знати точно, що... От, а так, да, приємно чути, що є результат роботи. Приємно знати, що відпрацювали і забрали свою землю назад. Кусочок, так, але забрали. Да, це дуже добре, це мотивує. От, всі задоволені якби, такою роботою. Тому в тому дусі так і далі. Все буде добре.
But the troops emphasize they're not fighting for glory, it's for their homeland and families.
Мобілізувався сам в перші дні повномасштабного вторгнення. Відповідно, в мене тоді була мотивація, я коли йшов мобілізовуватись, моя мотивація була захистити свою сім'ю, свою країну. Вона не змінилася.
Military experts say things will get more difficult as winter approaches. The Ukrainians say the main question is who holds the initiative. Kyiv says it's on their side, but so do the Russians. The Speaker of Canada's House of Commons has resigned after inviting a Ukrainian man who fought for a Nazi unit to Parliament and praising him.
That public recognition has caused pain to individuals and communities, including the Jewish community in Canada and around the world, in addition to survivors of Nazi atrocities in Poland, among other nations. I accept full responsibility for my actions.
The scandal began last week when lawmakers in Canada's parliament welcomed the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Following a speech by Zelensky, Anthony Rota singled out 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka, whom he'd invited to sit in the public gallery, describing the man as a Canadian hero. But over the weekend it emerged that Hunka had been a member of a brutal volunteer unit that was under the command of the Nazis. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called the Speaker's invitation deeply embarrassing to Parliament and to all Canadians.
A Kosovo court has remanded 2 alleged gunmen in custody after their arrest last weekend. It follows a deadly ambush and standoff with police at a monastery near the border with Serbia. A third suspect was detained the day before. Drone footage of the siege at the monastery has been released by Kosovo's Interior Ministry. The government in Pristina is claiming that the deputy leader of the Srpska List party, which represents many ethnic Serbs in Kosovo, led the group which carried out the weekend attack. Milan Radojcic is said to be closely associated with Serbia's president. Meanwhile, Serbs in northern Kosovo lit candles for the gunmen killed in the clashes with police. A Kosovo police officer also died on Sunday in an ambush before the ensuing gun battle at Banska Monastery. The clashes are the gravest escalation in violence in Kosovo for years. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has lost his appeal against a 19-year sentence added to his existing jail term. It was imposed in August after he was convicted on 6 charges related to alleged extremist activity, which he denies. The 19-year sentence is on top of 11.5 years that he's already serving for fraud and other charges. Navalny is one of the most visible opponents of the Russian regime, which has incarcerated him since his return in 2021 after nearly dying in a poisoning attempt.
Colombian pop star Shakira is facing new tax evasion charges in Spain. She's accused of failing to pay 6.7 million euros in 2018. That's in addition to allegations she failed to pay 14.5 million euros from 2012 to 2014. Charges that will be heard at a trial in Barcelona in November. Shakira's denied all the charges.
Hollywood screenwriters can go back to work on Wednesday after reaching a deal with studios. The Writers Guild of America announced a tentative agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers late on Tuesday and approved putting an end to the strike that began 4 months ago. The walkout was over pay issues and rights related to the use of artificial intelligence in writing. The tentative agreement is for the next 3 years and must be ratified by WGA members. They'll vote on the contract next month. Producers will now try to reach a deal with actors who've been on strike since July. US President Joe Biden joined a picket line in Michigan on Tuesday, becoming the first serving American president to show such support. The United Auto Workers Union declared a strike in November, targeting Ford, General Motors and Stellantis, pushing the 3 major car companies for higher pay and other improvements in new labour contracts. Biden's visit to local car workers comes a day before his main electoral rival, Donald Trump, does the same. A New York judge ruled on Tuesday that Donald Trump deceived banks and insurance companies for years by massively overvaluing his assets and exaggerating his net worth in order to improperly secure loans. Ruling in the civil lawsuit brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, Judge Arthur Engoron ordered some of the former president's companies removed from his control and dissolved. Trump called the decision un-American and part of a plot to damage his presidential campaign.
It's been his home for the last 150 years, and they treat him with the respect and care due to a world-famous resident. The imposing marble statue of David, which Michelangelo carved at the beginning of 1500, had been left outdoors for centuries before finding a shelter from the elements in the Galleria dell'Accademia in Florence, a home that was built especially for him.
Lui è stato trasportato 150 anni fa in questo museo e lo vediamo in un contesto religioso. Il museo è stato costruito proprio a forma basilicale con un'abside e proprio al centro, dove in genere troveremmo l'altar maggiore, abbiamo il David di Michelangelo.
The statue of the small shepherd who defeated the giant Goliath and then became the king of the Jews stands at just over 5 meters and is one of the best-known sculptures in the world. It's subject to regular inspection and preservation. The museum closes for a day every 2 months and David gets dusted off and monitored thoroughly.
Ci si affeziona e si conosce l'opera, no? Si vede cambiare, si controlla che tutto vada nel verso giusto, come ci si prende cura di una persona cara.
The famous resident doesn't seem too bothered by the hundreds of people paying him a visit every day. However, those who know him well know that's not true.
Veramente mi chiedo che cosa possa pensare di quello che vede intorno a sé tutti i giorni, di tutta la gente che arriva per vederlo, se veramente si sente, diciamo, compreso da chi arriva, se lo conoscono a fondo, se capiscono dove si trovano.
For another 2 months before the next dusting off, David will keep welcoming visitors patiently.
Qui invece siamo a Piazza della Signoria, dove da 150 anni una copia del David di Michelangelo presiede la città. Certo non importante come l'originale conservato alle gallerie dell'Accademia, ma comunque un simbolo necessario per l'arte e la cultura italiana.